Okay, so I'm talking a little bit about USPSA, and I guess you could apply it to any kind of competitive shooting or just shooting in general, trying to get good, and what some things are that you're going to want, like kind of gear wise, and kind of how to spend your money smart, I guess you could say, to get kind of the most skill building per dollar spent, if that makes sense. So, first thing you're going to need, obviously, is a gun. You can go a few different routes with this. Um, the route I've chosen to go is Glock. So this is a Glock 47. It's got a red dot on it. That's something I'll talk about in a minute here, whether you want to do optics or stick with irons or whatever. But pretty stock Glock here. I've silicone carbided the grip, but otherwise it's got the stock trigger, all stock springs and everything. Got this $15 brass plug in the back just because I like to plug that kind of hole there in the grip of the Glock. Just helps with reloads a little bit, and it's not as obtrusive as a magwell. So, and a magwell would bump you into limited optics, which my other Glock has a magwell on it, and I predominantly shoot in limited optics, so whatever, I guess. But I wanted to keep this gun a little more stock. So, that's what I've got for guns. I've got two, and that's something where if you're wanting to get really into competitive shooting, you're probably going to want two guns that you can kind of flex between. Ideally, you just have two that are exactly the same. I don't. I've got two slightly different guns. I got a 34 Gen 4 and a 47 Gen 5. Got a Timney trigger in the 34, which I don't think is worth it. I'll touch on that in a little bit too. But magwell, so yeah, whatever. Both guns I can shoot equally well, and switching between them doesn't feel too weird. Like they shoot pretty similar. They're both Glocks. So that's what I've got for guns. You could go a variety of different ways with that. You could do like you go CZ Shadow 2 route if you're looking to get like deep into the carry optics game in USPSA. That might be the route you want to go, or 2011. You can go a lot of different routes. I would say just get something that's like good and proven that is going to work, and Glock does that. So I like them. I can shoot them pretty well, and I don't have any problems with them really. Other people do, and if you do, that's fine. I guess you can buy whatever you want to buy. Smith & Wesson makes a good gun. Walther, the PDP, is really good. A lot of people like the Canucks. I'm a little sketched out on how they're gonna hold up, like long-term durability-wise. I know people that have had great luck with them. I think they're perfectly fine. Personally, I probably would get something a little bit higher end than them, but that's just me. I know people that like them a lot, and that's great. Next thing you're going to need is, well, a way to holster this thing. So I've got a belt rig here. This is how I shoot mostly. This is a T-Rex Ragnarok holster on a Safariland UBL mid-ride. Great Ghost Gear belt, some S-Tac pouches. Got a rifle pouch on there too, which I don't do a whole lot of rifle shooting, but when I do, I got a pouch on there for it. You don't need to do a whole belt setup like this, but I think it's not a bad thing to have. There's some nice things about being able to train with an actual belt. Makes storing your stuff a little easier. Kind of gives you a place to put things. But, all up, a belt rig like this is going to run you $200 to $300 probably. So it's kind of up to you if that's worth it. If you are predominantly like practicing for carry and you want to just use your carry holster, like you got a appendix rig or something, I would say go for it. And you can do a competition belt later on if you want to. If you're like law enforcement or something, you've already got like a duty belt, rock that. I would say this belt is kind of a hybrid between like sort of competition-y on the holster side, but not really. And I'd say it's a pretty much a duty belt. And this is what I shoot matches in. It's fine. I haven't noticed any big problems using it in competition. So if you were gonna go straight into like competition and that's what you were doing and you didn't care about like the duty side of things at all, getting like a Ghost belt is probably the most economical way to go. I think the Hydra P Plus belt setup from them that comes with like a 2 or 3 mag carriers and a holster already on the belt, it's like $250 all said and done. So that's probably a good value. They seem to make good products, so I'd probably do something like that if that's the route you want to go. And if you want to just stick with like an appendix rig, that's fine too. Next up is going to be mags. I mean, these first three things kind of all go hand in hand, right? You need a gun and a holster and mags. Your gun should come with at least a couple mags, but you're going to want more. I've got like 14 Glock mags, and I use all of them. So I've got a couple mags here that are just these cheap P mags. These are stuffed with dummy rounds, no primer, and I use these for dry fire practice. So might be something you want to do at some point. Yeah, I've got two that just they never see live ammo. They've always got dummy rounds in them, and that's all I use them for. Then I've got some more like competition-y mags with fancy followers that help you hold more ammo, and fancy base plates. These suckers all in run you like $90 to $100 a pop, depending on what you do to them. It's like $25-$30 for a Glock mag body, and then like $45 for the Henning extension, and then like $20 for the MBX spring and follower. So you're looking at 65, 90, yeah, like $90 for this Glock mag, and then whatever shipping and tax you pay on top of that. So it can get kind of stupid. So I've got one set of these, a set of 3. I've got 3 like fancy mags that I use in matches. 2 of them don't even have the MBX follower, they just have extensions on them. I'm probably going to get a few more of these here before too long, but if you're doing competition shooting, you're probably going to want some fancy mags that take full advantage of that length limit. So yeah, Henning extensions are the way to go, at least for Glock mags, by the way. I've tried a couple others, and these are definitely the best. So, and the MBX follower I've had really good luck with too. So I think that's a solid competition mag option for Glock. And I think Henning makes good stuff for all the mags, the CZs and the M&Ps. I've heard good things about their mag extensions for basically everything. So yeah. What's next? Well, Eye and Ear Pro, you're going to want this. You're going to want this pretty early on. So you can do just foamies. They're totally fine. I still use them fairly often because they're cheap and I've always got a can of them somewhere. And they protect your hearing. So nothing wrong with that. If you want to at some point upgrade to something a little bit nicer, I guess. These Savior muffs I've had really good luck with. They come with gel cups already on them, and they're really comfy. They do a good job, and they're like $50. So I wouldn't spend your money on that right away, but in the future, if you want to get something nicer, I've had good luck with these. A lot of guys like the Sordens and some of the other stuff. Walkers are pretty popular. I have a set of those. I'm not as impressed. I like the Saviors a lot better. iPro, I run the cheap stuff. These are like $10 from Home Depot, just Milwaukee brand iPro. I haven't really seen a reason to get bougie iPro, so I haven't yet. A lot of guys like the Hunter's HD Gold and stuff like that. I'm sure it's all really nice. It's also really expensive. Like, I don't have a huge desire to pay $300 for a pair of shooting glasses, so I pay $10 for a pair at Home Depot, and then when they get all scratched up or broken or lost, I just go buy another one. And I don't cry about it because I didn't spend $300 on it. So, next up, you're gonna want A timer, probably, if you want to get really serious about getting good. Whether you want to do the competition thing or not, I think a timer is a good thing to have. It's not necessary, and there's some like phone apps that work okay, but a dedicated timer is a good thing to have. This one's the Pact Club 2 or Club 3. I don't remember what number they're on. It's a Pact timer. It works. It gives you a beep. You can set par times on it, all that stuff. They're kind of stupidly expensive for what they are, but like they all are. Like all the timers are expensive. So it's like $130, I think, for one of these suckers. Those Shooters Global ones look really nice. I know Kestrel makes a nice one. I don't remember what the price is on all those. I know the Shooters Global ones aren't horrible. And then what's the one that we've been using at matches? There's this other one that my shooting club uses. That's a little one, and those are pretty nice too. They can Bluetooth to a phone, so that's kind of cool. The Shooters Global ones do that too. This one doesn't. So if I want to remember my time, I just gotta snap a picture of it, and that works fine too. Yeah, getting a timer of some kind is a good thing, I would say. So then next up, targets, pasters. I recommend stealing targets from your local club match, because you should be shooting club matches anyway, and they're throwing targets away at the end of them. So grab a few. They're usually not too shot up. Otherwise, they're like $1 a piece to just buy them, and I do both. So that works. You're probably going to want some stuff to like clean your gun. If you shoot like Glocks, you don't need a whole lot for this. Some gun oil. I use Rem oil. I know people hate on it. I don't know. It's gun oil. It does gun oil things. It works for me. You can tell me why it's wrong. You're probably right. I just don't really care. I've got a bunch of Rem oil and it works fine. Yeah, I've got like this Glock tool that I wanted a Glock match, so I can, disassemble the thing with this. And then I've just got like some random brush that I pulled out of something to scrub grime off. That's all I do for cleaning, really, on Glocks. Run a 9mm bore snake through the barrel once in a while if you have to. But yeah, that's about it. I will touch on mags quick. I would not cheap out on mags. Like I said, I've got this cheap Magpul one. All I really use these for anymore is dry fire, and to me that's kind of all they're good for. I mean, I'll train with them sometimes, but they can be a little more sketchy sometimes. I haven't really had a whole lot of malfunctions with them, but they just seem sketchy. So whatever gun you've got, like, try to get good mags for it. If you're running a 2011, it means you're going to be paying a lot of money for them. If you want, although I will say I don't think it makes as big of a deal as people think. It's like if you start putting extensions on them and stuff, Glock mags get expensive too. But yeah, you're gonna need ammo, obviously, right? Everybody needs ammo. So I shoot a lot of Blazer. Here's some Blazer 115s. Shoot the 115s. I shoot the 147s. Got a case of 124s in my garage. I whatever, like, pick your poison. I find one that works well, shoot it. I recommend Blazer. It's cheap enough to practice with. It's good enough to shoot a match with. If you're gonna stick with like one type of ammo for everything, that's probably the way to go. Sometimes I'll order like cheap bulk stuff from like Turkey, and it works fine for training. I wouldn't really trust it in a match, but whatever. I train with it. It gets my guns pretty dirty, and then I clean them a little bit more often, which, whatever, it is what it is. So, but I wouldn't go super cheap on it. Like, I'm still getting brass case. I'm not doing like steel and stuff like that. I just haven't ever found that to be worth it. Next thing we're going to talk about is optics on pistols. I mentioned this earlier. Whether you want one or not, it's kind of up to you. I think I enjoy shooting with an optic better. I'm able to do it faster. I'm able to be a little more accurate. And most of the competition now, like all the divisions pretty much pretty much require you to have one. Like, actually, like LO and CO, you do have to have one. Open, you don't have to, but like you're not going to be competitive without one generally. So I like shooting optics. I've got a couple of Defender XLs on here. I think it's a pretty good option. The other ones I would look at would be the Holosun 507 comp, or any of the Holosun stuff really, like depending on what you're trying to do with the gun. I've got one of their 407s, just like the regular sized one, and I shot that for a year in carry optics, and it worked well. So yeah, those are pretty much, well, and the Trijicon SRO, that's the other one that's worth looking at. Other than that, personally, I'm not going to pay much attention to any optics outside of those three unless something else really good comes along, and I haven't seen that yet. So, yeah, something else you're probably going to want is like ways to dry fire. So I mentioned a little bit with like the dry fire mags I have that are just loaded with these dummy rounds that have no primer powder, but I got a bullet in there. I had a buddy of mine load these up. I think that's a solid way to do things. You can buy like actual weighted dry fire mags for certain guns too. That's also a perfectly fine way to do things. But having some dry fire capability like in your home is really useful because it allows you to practice when you otherwise couldn't practice. And so like I've also got a bunch of, I've shown them in other videos, but just little cardboard cutouts that I like make little mini USPSA targets. You can buy them from I think the Ben Stagger Pro Shop as well, but they're great. Like get a bunch of your little targets and you can pin them up on your wall or wherever, do whatever you want with them, make little stages like within your house, and that's super helpful. So I would recommend doing something like that. I just cut mine out of a cereal box, so it's like literally free. But yeah, do things that makes it easier for you to practice. So something that I got as just kind of a little experiment to be like make practice a little more accessible for me was an airsoft Glock. It's fun. I don't know that I'd necessarily recommend it for everybody. I think regular dry fire can be more beneficial, but I tried this a little and I've been liking it. You know, it fits my Glock holsters, so that's cool. The trigger is actually relatively similar to a Glock, like not super similar, but similar enough, I guess. No way to put an optic on it. That's my biggest beef with this thing so far. If I could stick an optic on this, that would just like, that would make it so much better, but I can't. So, oh well. Got, you know, it takes CO2 and airsoft BBs. You can buy a whole lot of airsoft BBs and CO2 for not a whole lot of money. So I mess around with this in like in my buddy's garage in the winter a little bit. We make little stages in his garage and shoot them for time against each other, and it's fun. You know, like the ACE system is out now. Stuff like that I think is fun. I don't know that it's all super worth it necessarily, but if you think it'd be fun and you don't mind spending the money on it, like, do it. I think this airsoft gun was like $100, and you know, BBs and CO2 are cheap. So yeah, like whatever, do stuff, have fun with it, and the more time you spend messing with your gun or something very similar to your gun, like the more comfortable you get with it in your hand, and things just go better with your shooting. So mess with your gun a lot. Just be safe about it. Make sure it's not like loaded. Don't blow holes in your light switches. But other than that, make sure to be messing with your gun often, and that will help you shoot better to a bigger degree than you realize. Like The more you handle guns, the more you dry fire, all that stuff, it adds up in a heartbeat. So do that. Some other things you might want is like a case to carry all this junk around in. I've got this one here from Harbor Freight. I got it on sale there for cheap, and I cut it out to like hold all my stuff. So I've got like a cutout for mags, timer, more mags, and then 2 gun slots, 2 big open spots for other stuff. I think it's a pretty good way to go if you're on a budget. Ammo cans, you can get these for pretty cheap to haul your ammo around in. I try to I don't know, I'm kind of cheap on a lot of that stuff, so that's why I have like a Harbor Freight case. I know that people make better ones out there, but the Harbor Freight one does the trick for me, and it was cheap. So I'd rather spend the money on ammo and shoot more than spend it on other stuff. And I don't have a huge training budget, so that's something that I kind of save money on typically. But that's up to you. Whatever is worth it in your budget and whatever makes sense for you, do that, I guess. I think that's about it. I guess the only other thing I would say is like a range membership, so you have somewhere to shoot if you don't already have somewhere to shoot. I'm fortunate enough that I basically have a range all to myself, so I don't have a range membership because I have that. But if you don't have that, find a local range that allows you to shoot dynamically and get a membership there. That'll be well worth it, assuming you use it, and have a lot of fun with it, because shooting's a blast, and that's what we're all here to do anyway. So I hope this was a little bit helpful, at least. Mostly it's just me talking about stuff and what I recommend you get. I will say a little bit on like guns and stuff. I said earlier, if you want to really get into USPSA, you're probably going to want 2 guns at least. Depending on the platform you're shooting, you might even want more than that. And that's something that I think people sometimes overlook when they're looking at getting into a gun. You kind of want to look at that price tag and double it, because that's probably what you're going to actually spend. Same with like your optics and your triggers or whatever else you put into it. That's something I would say is probably not worth it. It's like a trigger, fancy triggers. I don't, at least when you're starting out. Eventually, yeah, it could be worth it, but I'd probably hold off on that for a while. When you're looking at like prices on guns, keep in mind you're gonna probably want more than one of the same thing. So if you're looking at a $2,000 fancy handgun or $4,000, $5,000, they get crazy. I would just have that in the back of your mind. Like, am I gonna want to buy a second one of these? And if the answer is no, doesn't mean don't buy the gun necessarily, but if you're really looking to get into competition, it should probably give you some pause. That's why things like Glocks and PDPs and M&Ps are as popular as they are, is people can buy a couple of them and not sweat it. So I would say that's probably the way to go from the start, is to get something like that just works. It's reliable, it does the things it needs to do, and you don't have to worry too much about it. If you're shooting a Glock, you might not even need a second gun, because I have yet to have one of these fail. I have had a dot fail in a match though, so you probably still want to. But yeah, get something that's kind of no frills and just works to start, and then when you end up wanting to upgrade, look into like really what you want to be shooting, and just get that if you're willing to spend the money for it. I thought about doing going the Shadow 2 route, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad route. Those guns aren't horribly expensive, but a pair of optics ready Shadow 2s, that's like $3,000 versus I paid $400 for this gun and $525 for this one. So I'm all in for less than $1,000 in just the guns. I've got optics and stuff on there too, but whereas I'd be 3 times that with a pair of Shadow 2s, and frankly I'd just rather spend the money on ammo. But that's for everybody to decide for themselves. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Have fun, shoot good, go fast, don't suck, all that. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.